I spent 9 months pretending I don't exist. That's the first lesson you learn working for a man like Tiger Raith. You move through rooms like a ghost, present, necessary, but unseen. Your hands polish marble that reflects chandeliers worth more than your yearly pay. Your feet tread carpets thick enough to swallow sound, and your voice stays locked behind your teeth. The mansion stands at the edge of Regent's Park, all black glass and carved stone. Old London money stitched together with something darker underneath. Everyone knows what Tiger Raith does, though no one says it aloud. He doesn't need a title to own half the city. The tabloids call him the Mayfair King. The streets call him Boss. To me, he's simply Sir, if I ever have to speak to him at all. Most days, I don't. I keep to the domestic wing, a quiet network of corridors below the main floors, where staff move like blood through the mansion's hidden veins. The air smells faintly of polish and coffee. I clean, fold, arrange, and keep my head down. My sister Escher works in the kitchen, a brilliant whirlwind of colour and noise compared to my careful silence. She laughs with the chef's experiments with spices that don't belong in English breakfast, hums old barleywood melodies over the clatter of pots. She's been here longer than I have. Tiger's people like her food. I think that's what keeps us safe. We live in a flat above a small grocer's in Kilburn, 2 bedrooms so narrow that our voices echo against each other's walls. The landlord ignores leaks, the heater rattles, but it's ours. Rent consumes half our pay, and the rest disappears into debt, mostly mine. When Mum died, the hospital sent bills like condolences. Cancer ate through her body first, then through our savings, then through my piece. I signed payment plans written in small, cruel fonts. £48,000. It's a number that hums behind my eyes every time I breathe, so I work. And work. And when extra hours appear, I grab them before anyone else can. That Thursday evening began like all the others. Grey London rain, the city already sliding toward winter. By 10, the house was nearly silent except for the low hum of security monitors and the soft ticking of Tiger's antique clock in the main hall. I'd just finished wiping down the banister, a stretch of dark oak polished so often it reflected the lamps like water. My back ached and my fingertips smelled of lemon wax. Escher appeared from the kitchen doorway, tying her scarf with one hand and holding her phone in the other. "You heading out?" I asked. "Yeah, Rishi's panicking about some plumbing disaster. Flats flooding." She rolled her eyes. "Women and their domestic emergencies." I smiled, tired. "Go, I'll lock up after." "You sure? It's chucking it down out there." "I'm fine." Escher frowned, the way only sisters can, like she's reading lines on your face no one else can see. "You look knackered." "I'm fine," I repeated. "We'll do movie night Saturday." "My treat." "You mean you'll fall asleep halfway through?" She laughed, kissed my cheek, and vanished toward the side garage where her little car waited under the rain. Outside, the night pressed close. The service lane behind the mansion was slick with puddles, reflections of gold security lights trembling across the asphalt. My hood barely covered my hair as I locked the side door and started the short walk to the bus stop. 3 blocks. 3 blocks. I'd walked them hundreds of times, past shuttered boutiques and an art gallery closed for renovation. Safe enough, everyone said. After all, this was Tiger's territory. The city's pulse changed around me, slower, heavier. A black cab hissed past, scattering water across my shoes. Somewhere distant, a siren moaned. I counted the shops the way some people count prayers. 1, 2, 3. Then a voice cut through the rain. "Evening, love." 2 men stepped out from an alley between the closed cafe and the antiques shop. They didn't look drunk, just wrong. One was pale, his shaved head gleaming wet, a grin cutting across his face like a wound. The other stood taller, bulkier, silent. "Sorry," I said quickly, stepping aside, just trying to get home. The first one moved with me, blocking the path. "What's the rush? We're just being friendly." My stomach tightened. "Sure you do." His gaze flicked to my uniform, a neat grey tunic embroidered with a small silver emblem, the stylized R of Raith Enterprises. "You work up at the big house, yeah?" "Yeah?" I froze. "No, just a cleaning agency." "A funny," he said, his smile widening. "We've seen that logo before. That's the Mayfair King's place in it?" Guess we finally found one of his little workers. The taller man shifted behind me, cutting off escape. Cold water trickled down my collar. "Please," I whispered. "I don't know anything. Just let me go." "Not yet." The shaved one's tone turned sharp. "You'll deliver a message for us. The first punch caught my cheek before I even understood. White light exploded behind my eyes. I staggered, slipped, hit the ground hard. They were shouting something about Raith thinking he owns the city, about Volkov streets, about no one being untouchable. Boots slammed into my ribs. Hands yanked my hair. Rain blurred everything into grey streaks. I tried to scream, but a hand clamped over my mouth. Somewhere in the chaos, the world folded in on itself. Then nothing. When I woke, the rain had stopped. My body felt carved from glass. One wrong breath and everything would shatter. My left eye throbbed, half swollen shut. My palms stung with grit embedded in the skin. The alley was empty, except for the echo of water dripping from a broken gutter. My bag was gone. My phone too. I crawled to the curb, hauled myself upright, and stumbled toward the bus stop. Each breath sent knives into my side. The lights of the next street blurred and reformed like a fever dream. A woman at the stop gasped when she saw me. Jesus, love, you need a hospital. I'm fine, I rasped. Just need to get home. It wasn't true, but it was all I had. Escher nearly screamed when I walked through the flat door. Hanely. In mugged, I said, collapsing into the bathroom. Don't call anyone. Her reflection hovered behind me as I leaned over the sink, wiping blood from my lip with trembling fingers. My face was a ruin. Purple blooming along the cheekbone, lip split, eye swelling. We have to go to A&E, she said. Oh, we can't afford it. My voice cracked. Please, Escher, just help me clean up. She hovered, helpless, while I sat fully clothed in the shower, hot water running pink around the drain. The steam hid my tears. After, she bandaged what she could with our old first aid kit, muttering curses in Hindi that sounded like prayers. When I finally lay down, pain humming in every nerve, she sat beside me and whispered, I should have walked with you. Not your fault, I murmured. But in the dark, I kept seeing the moment they noticed the logo on my uniform, the change in their eyes from greed to hatred. They hadn't attacked me for money. They'd attacked me for who I worked for. That thought kept me awake until dawn. By morning, I couldn't even pretend I was fine. My face looked like a painter's palette of bruises. My ribs burned when I breathed. But missing work wasn't an option. Debt collectors didn't care about black eyes. Escher drove me instead of letting me take the bus. She parked by the side gate of the mansion, gripping the wheel until her knuckles whitened. You shouldn't go in looking like this. I'll cover it.
Oracle.
I smiled weakly. Her foundation. Inside, the house looked the same as always. Perfect. Silent. Indifferent. I moved slower than usual, polishing surfaces, changing linens, pretending I wasn't flinching with every movement. At noon, while I was refilling the vase in the upstairs corridor, footsteps echoed behind me. Measured, deliberate. I turned. Tiger Raith stood in the doorway. He wasn't supposed to be home. Usually by midday he was somewhere in the city, meetings, deals, whatever men like him did behind tinted glass. He'd removed his jacket, sleeves rolled up to the elbows, dark hair slightly much like he'd been running his hands through it. But it was his eyes that froze me, amber, sharp and very much focused on me. What happened to your face? His voice was low even. Dangerous in its calm. Why, fell, I said automatically. Wet pavement. Clumsy. He studied me without blinking. Which side? What? Which side did you fall on? The left, I think. He took a step closer. So you fell on your left, hit your left eye, split your lip, and your left ribs are hurting now. My heart slammed. Yes, that's a very convenient fall. He moved again, close enough that I could smell something dark on his skin. Smoke and spice. Show me your arms. Sir, show me. His tone wasn't raised, but it left no room for refusal. I pushed up my sleeve. Bruises ringed my upper arm, perfect finger shapes, already yellowing around the edges. Tiger's expression didn't change, but the air in the corridor thickened, charged. Who did this to you? Told you. Don't lie to me again. Hanely. He knew my name. I'd worked here 9 months and thought I was invisible, and he'd known my name all along. 2 words slipped out before I could stop them. 2 men. Where? 3 blocks away. Near the antiques shop. What did they take? In my bag. My phone. The rest lodged in my throat. He waited. I couldn't meet his eyes. They saw my uniform, I whispered. Said it was a message. Silence stretched. Then he turned toward the wall phone beside the staircase, pressed a button. Levy, my office. Now, Mr. Raith, please. Please? Sit down. he ordered, gesturing toward the nearest chair. You're not causing trouble. Someone else did. When his second-in-command, Levived, a lean man with frost at his temples and eyes like storm water, Tiger didn't waste words. 2 men, 3 blocks from here. They saw the uniform and called it a message. Levy's gaze swept over my bruises, then snapped back to Tiger. Volkov's crew? Most likely. Find them. I want them here before midnight. Understood. Levi vanished like smoke. I sat frozen, fingers twisted together, feeling the floor tilt beneath me. You don't have to. They made it personal, Tiger said quietly. They touched someone under my roof. That's not a debt that goes unpaid. I'm just staff. His gaze locked on mine. Not anymore. He sent me upstairs, to a guest suite bigger than our entire flat, and told me to rest. The sheets smelled of lavender. Escher appeared half an hour later carrying a tray of tea, eyes wide with disbelief. What's happening? She hissed. Evie's tearing through the house like it's Judgment Day, and you're sitting in the good room drinking Earl Grey. He saw my face, I said. He's handling it. Handling it how? I looked down at my shaking hands. You don't want to know. Escher sank onto the edge of the bed. This isn't normal. And nothing about this place is normal. Through the tall window, London's rain-slick skyline glittered under streetlight. Somewhere out there, men were hunting the ones who'd hurt me. And for the first time since the attack, I felt something like safety, cold, terrifying and real. When the grandfather clock downstairs chimed midnight, I couldn't sleep. Voices drifted up faintly through the vents, low, urgent, masculine. Then the unmistakable sound of a heavy door closing. Curiosity, or maybe dread, pulled me from the bed. I crept into the corridor, bare feet silent on the carpet, and followed the hum of voices toward the east wing. A strip of light spilled from beneath the study door. The door wasn't fully shut. I shouldn't have looked. Inside, 2 men knelt on the rug, hands bound behind them with zip ties. Their faces were swollen, bloodied, but I recognized the shaved head and the bulkier shape of the silent one. The men from the alley. Tiger sat behind his desk, jacket discarded, shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows again. Levi stood at his right, arms folded. I didn't know, the shaved man gasped. I didn't know she was yours, boss, Volkov said to make noise. Just noise. Tiger rose, slow and deliberate, like a lion stretching before the kill. You put your hands on a woman under my protection and call it noise. We were told. What did you think would happen when you saw the emblem on her shirt? The man's breath hitched. We thought you'd back down. Tiger crouched in front of him. Then you thought wrong. He reached out, not to strike, but to tilt the man's chin upward, forcing eye contact. Do you know what she does? She cleans floors. She earns enough to pay for her mother's death in installments. You left her bleeding in the rain. No one spoke. Then softly, who hurt you, Hanely? The question wasn't to me, it was for them. And when the man whispered, I did, Tiger's eyes went flat and cold as the Thames. Levy, he said, take them out back. Make it clean. I stumbled away before I could see more, pressed against the wall, trembling as Levy's men hauled the prisoners past. The one called Victor was crying. The other just stared blankly ahead, lips moving soundlessly. When the door closed again, I slid down the wall, shaking, heart pounding against my broken ribs. I should have been horrified. Instead, a single dangerous thought burned through me. They deserved it. At dawn, I found myself at the window of the guest room, watching the fog roll across the park. The mansion below glowed gold against the grey sky. Somewhere inside, Tiger Raith had just declared war. The next morning, light slipped through the curtains like a secret trying to escape. I hadn't really slept. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw rain-slick cobblestones and Tiger's face in that study. Calm, lethal, beautiful in a way that frightened me. A soft knock came at the door. Come in, I croaked. Tiger stepped inside carrying 2 cups of coffee. No guards, no entourage, just him. The scent reached me first, cardamom and something darker. He looked the same as last night, except for the fatigue around his eyes. That unsettled me more than anything. Men like him weren't supposed to look human. I thought you might want this. He held out a cup. My hand shook as I took it. Thank you. He studied the bruises that purpled my skin. You shouldn't be walking yet. I've worked through worse. Doubt that. He moved closer, the lamplight catching the faint scar that cut through his eyebrow. We're seeing a doctor, a proper one. I can't afford. A Hanely. My name in his voice stopped every argument. You don't pay. I do. Because this happened on my ground. Now that's not responsibility. That's guilt. And maybe both. He glanced to window. I get dressed, Levy's waiting with the car. The drive through London was silent except for rain against the windows. Tiger sat beside me in the back seat, not across. Close enough that I could feel the heat of him through the thin space between us. Stop thinking about the cost, he said without looking up from his phone. You're practically calculating the bill in your head. You can hear that. You can hear that. You make a living hearing things people don't say. I turned to the window, watching the city blur by. You make a living doing worse than that. He didn't deny it. The clinic was hidden above a row of offices in Fitzrovia. Unmarked door, discreet brass bell. Inside smelled of antiseptic and leather. The doctor was older, silver hair, sharp eyes that flicked between us and read far too much. A cracked rib, he said after the x-ray. A left side. Soft tissue trauma, facial swelling, no fracture. 6 weeks minimum to heal. Tiger stood against the wall like a storm held in check. Will she recover completely? Is she whisked? The doctor wrapped my ribs in a white bandage, firm enough to hold but gentle enough to breathe. Each time I flinched, Tiger's jaw tightened. When it was over, the doctor printed a list of prescriptions. Tiger paid before I could open my mouth. His card gleamed black, the kind that didn't have limits. On the way out, I whispered, you didn't have to. I know, he said. But I did. The car slid back into traffic. I clutched the paper bag of medication like proof that any of this was real. You ever been to hospital before? He asked suddenly. Only when Mum was sick. He nodded slow. That's when you learn to disappear, isn't it? Hospitals teach you that. The quieter you are, the longer they'll let you stay. I looked at him then, startled. You talk like you've been through it. He smiled without humour. Different kind of hospital. Back at the mansion, Tiger dismissed Levi and walked me to the same guest suite. He stopped at the threshold. From now until you're healed, you work light duties only. No stairs, no carrying, no bending. That's half the job. Then we'll find you the other half. He turned to go, then paused. Hanely? Yes. Last night. What you saw, you don't have to be afraid of me. I'm not, I said. It surprised both of us. His eyes softened a fraction. A good. Because fear makes people lie. When he left, the silence he'd been holding seemed to stay behind, filling the room like smoke. By Sunday evening, the bruises had begun to fade from violet to yellow. But my ribs still sang whenever I laughed, which was rare. I spent most of the weekend half reclined on the chaise by the window, pretending to read while the city outside drowned in drizzle. Every few hours someone knocked, usually Levy, sometimes Urshay, to check that I'd eaten, to remind me of my medication. But it was the third visitor who unsettled me most, Tiger. He appeared at strange hours, once in the early afternoon with soup, once near midnight with tea. He never stayed long. Sometimes he asked questions about the staff schedules, sometimes nothing at all. He'd simply stand there, studying the pattern of light across the bandage on my ribs, as if memorizing the damage. Each visit left the air humming after he'd gone. Escher noticed, of course. He's hovering, she said Monday morning while retying the wrap around my torso. Boss men don't hover, Hanely. They command, they threaten, they forget. But that one, he lingers. Maybe he's making sure I don't sue him, I muttered. She laughed. People don't sue Tiger Raith. They just stop existing. I wanted to argue, but couldn't. Deep down, I knew she was right. By Tuesday, Tiger had reassigned my duties. Instead of cleaning, I catalogued the library, hundreds of leather-bound volumes lined like soldiers. It was quiet, easy on my ribs, and far away from the eyes of other staff who whispered every time I entered a room. I was halfway through alphabetizing the Italian section when I heard his voice behind me. A chronological by author. You've almost finished the first decade of Dante. I turned, startled. You remember where I stopped yesterday? He noticed things. He came closer, tracing a finger along the spine of an antique edition. Most people would have given up by now. You keep going. For some of us, he murmured. It is. He reached for a book above my head and I instinctively flinched. The movement sent a jolt through my side. He froze. Still hurts? A bit. Without asking, he touched my waist lightly, careful of the bandage testing. The warmth of his palm bled through the cotton. Breathe, he said softly. Slow. I did, more from shock than obedience. The pain eased, or maybe I just stopped noticing it. His eyes met mine, amber darkening to something molten. Then, just as quickly, he stepped back, clearing his throat. You need rest, he said, voice returned to business. A levy will drive you home. That night, the house pulsed with strange energy. Footsteps echoed down corridors, doors opened and shut. Escher intercepted me in the hallway. They're talking about the Volkov people, she whispered. Something big happened in Camden warehouse fire. 3 trucks gone. I thought of the men in the study, of Tiger's measured voice. Make it clean. He's sending messages, I said quietly. Escher bit her lip. And they'll send them back. The next morning, Tiger appeared again, earlier than usual, holding 2 takeaway cups. A drink, he ordered. It's the only coffee in London that doesn't taste like regret. I smiled despite myself. Was this how you motivate your employees? Only the ones who matter. He sat on the edge of the desk opposite me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Rain tapped the windows like fingers. I checked the footage, he said finally. You were right. Volkov's crew. They're escalating. Because of me. Because of me through you. His tone hardened. They thought they could make me flinch. Did you? His gaze flicked to me, sharp, assessing, almost amused. Do I look like a man who flinches? No, I admitted. Then stop blaming yourself. The words landed heavier than they should have. No one had ever said them to me before. He leaned forward slightly. You remind me that there's something worth protecting. Don't make that a burden. He didn't know what to say. The silence between us filled with everything unspoken. The rain, the smell of espresso, the memory of his hand at my waist. That night I dreamed of footsteps in water and woke to find the corridor outside alive with movement again. Men's voices, clipped and tense. From the fragment I caught, Levi was saying something about an ambush near Docklands, about Volkov's retaliation. The war had begun, and I was still healing. But as I lay back against the pillows, I realized something had shifted. The fear that had ruled me since that alley was gone. In its place was something harder, sharper, anger, and, beneath it, a dangerous sense of belonging. Rain followed us out of London like a persistent ghost. It slicked the streets, turned every lamp into a smear of gold, and made the city smell of petrol and iron. Tiger drove himself this time. Levi sat up front, silent, a sentinel in a charcoal suit. I'd been in the back of this car before, but always as cargo, quiet, small, hoping to be forgotten. Today, Tiger had insisted I sit beside him. Consider this a change of scenery, he'd said. You've been staring at the same 4 walls for days. I hadn't argued. The walls of the mansion were beginning to whisper. The car wound south toward the river. Office towers gave way to older brick, to warehouses and closed markets. London peeled itself open in layers of wealth and ruin. Tiger kept one hand on the wheel, the other draped loosely on his knee. I watched the city in the reflection of his window and tried not to notice how the passing lights carved his profile in flashes. Jaw, mouth, the scar bisecting his eyebrow. You don't sleep, I said finally. He glanced at me. Neither do you. I have reasons. So do I. We left it there. The destination turned out to be an underground car park beneath a half-renovated office block. Tiger stopped the engine. Turned to me. I need 10 minutes upstairs, he said. He said, you stay with Levi. Don't get out. The order was gentle but absolute. When he was gone, the car felt too big, too silent. Levi sat motionless except for his eyes, which never stopped moving. He noticed me watching. You're brave, he said. Most people shake when they sit that close to him. I did, I admitted. At first. And now, I'm still shaking. I just hide it better. Something like respect flickered across his face. Good. Keep hiding it. The Volkov boys feed on fear. He looked away again, scanning the shadows. You shouldn't have come. I didn't exactly volunteer. I know, but you matter now. That changes the odds. Before I could ask what he meant, the lift doors slid open and Tiger emerged flanked by 2 men I didn't recognize, broad, tattooed, the type who breathed threat. He spoke briefly to Levy in low tones, then opened my door. Let's go, he said. The building above the car park was a ruin being reborn, bare concrete, the smell of plaster and dust. Through the skeletal frame, I could see the river glinting under slate sky. Tiger guided me through the shell of a future office until we reached a space with floor-to-ceiling windows already installed. From here, London stretched infinite and indifferent. This is where it starts, he said. He said, the view, the reconstruction. He nodded toward the men now, unrolling blueprints across a temporary table. When it's finished, this will be Raith Holdings' new headquarters. Legal business, above ground. And below, he smiled faintly. You learn quickly. Something inside me twisted. I'd known he lived in two worlds. The one with marble floors and the one that left bruises on people like me. But seeing both at once made the truth impossible to ignore. Why bring me here? I asked. Because I want you to understand what they're fighting over. Them? Volkov? He nodded. Every street, every contract, every piece of dirt in this city means power. They thought if they hurt someone small, I'd yield a little ground. He looked at me then, direct and unflinching. If they misjudged what you mean to me, the words should have terrified me. Instead, they filled the space between us with something electric. He took one step closer, close enough that I caught the scent of rain on wool, smoke on his skin. A tiger. He lifted a hand. Not a threat, just a pause. You're safe with me. That's all you need to know right now. I wanted to believe him. But safety was a word that changed meaning in his world. Back in the car, the drive north was slower. Traffic thickened. The city felt heavier, aware of its own heartbeat. At a red light, Tiger said, You keep looking at me like you're trying to solve an equation. Maybe I am. What's the unknown variable? Whether you're protecting me because you care, or because it proves a point. He smiled without humour. Does it matter? It should. He didn't answer, and the silence between us became a third passenger. When we reached the mansion, dusk had already bled into the sky. The lights of Regent's Park winked through mist. Tiger stopped at the entrance and turned off the engine, but didn't move to get out. Hanely, he said quietly, you asked me once why I took over from my father instead of running. The truth is I did run, for 2 years. Then I realized you can't outrun blood. It catches up in the mirror every morning. He looked down at his hands. Why keep thinking maybe you see something different in me? Something other than what everyone else sees. I see both, I said, and I'm still here. That earned the smallest of smiles. Then stay that way. He opened my door himself. The gesture felt old-fashioned, intimate in a way that had nothing to do with class. The moment I stepped inside, though, the house greeted us with chaos, voices, footsteps, the scent of gun oil carried down the corridor. Levi appeared from nowhere, face grim. Front gate, drive-by. No casualties, but they got close. Tiger's expression shuttered. Volkov. Unmarked car, Eastern plates, same pattern. He turned to me. I go upstairs. Stay in your room until I send for you. A tiger, a please, he said, and that single word, rare, unexpected, undid every protest. I climbed the staircase slowly, watching him vanish into the storm of his men. Below, orders cracked like thunder. The war I'd sensed for days had finally reached the gate. From the landing window, I saw the courtyard flare white under floodlights, men moving like shadows, vehicles revving into the night. Then the gates closed again, sealing the mansion from the world. I stood there until the last echo faded, my hand pressed against the cold glass. Fear should have come back by then. It didn't. All I felt was the sharp, impossible certainty that I was part of this now, woven into the violence, the loyalty, the dangerous tenderness of Tiger Raith's world. The mansion did not sleep that night. From my window, I watched the drive fill with men in dark coats and cleaner vehicles than most police squads owned. Floodlights turned the rain to silver threads. Every few minutes, a radio crackled, a door slammed, engines flared and disappeared down the avenue. London kept breathing beyond the gates, unaware that a private war had just opened beneath its skin. Escher knocked softly around midnight, eyes wide, voice trembling. They said it was at the gate. You were out with him, weren't you? I nodded. She exhaled hard. You need to leave this place. Oh, where would I go? They know my face now. Oh, then we'll hide. Oh, they'd find us before morning. I touched her wrist. Aisha, listen. The safest place for us right now is here, behind his walls. She wanted to argue but saw the truth in my expression and didn't. Instead, she whispered, He's dangerous. I know. And you're starting to care about him. I didn't answer. Silence was confession enough. The next day passed in a blur of quiet tension. The usual laughter of staff was gone. Every corridor carried an echo of caution. Levy's men patrolled in pairs. Windows stayed locked even in daylight. By evening, Tiger still hadn't returned. I tried to work in the library but couldn't focus. The books blurred together, the words turning to smudges. Finally, I gave up and drifted to the conservatory, a glass-walled chamber overlooking the garden. The rain had stopped, leaving the world washed clean. I pressed my palm against the glass and tried to remember what normal ever felt like. Footsteps broke the quiet. I turned to find Tiger standing in the doorway, coat still damp, shadows under his eyes. "You're hurt," I said before I could stop myself. "It's nothing." He unbuttoned the coat anyway, revealing a shallow slice across his forearm, already stitched. "Nothing bleeds," I murmured. He smiled faintly. "You sound like Levi, then maybe you should listen to him." I did. "He told me to come inside and let you scold me." "That hardly sounds like him." "It's possible," I paraphrased. For the first time in days, I laughed. A small, fragile sound. Something eased in his shoulders at the sound. He moved closer, close enough that the scent of rain and gunpowder reached me. "Volkov tried to take one of our shipments," he said quietly. "They failed. 3 of their cars burned. They'll think twice before coming back. That's what you call peace. It's the only kind we get." He looked at me for a long moment. "You shouldn't have to see any of this." "You already have. You're not like this. Not because of me." His voice was rough, almost regretful. I reached out before thinking and brushed my fingers just above the bandage on his arm. His breath caught. "You don't need to protect me from what's already happened," I said. "You can't put glass around a memory." Maybe not, he admitted, "but I can keep you from getting new scars. I don't want to be a weakness for you, Tiger." He stepped closer until there was only a heartbeat of air between us. "You're not a weakness, Hanely. You're a reminder of what it costs to have none." The space between us pulsed with something raw and unspoken. Then he reached up, touched my chin lightly, tilting my face toward the light. "Still healing," he murmured. "But you're beautiful even when it hurts." The words sank straight through me. Before I could breathe, he drew back, the moment folding neatly away behind his control. "I've arranged a driver for you and Esho," he said. No more buses, no walking home. Until this is over. You think it'll end soon." He gave a small, grim smile. "It always ends. Question is, who's still standing?" He stayed in the conservatory for a while after that, both of us pretending to watch the city lights. When he finally spoke again, his voice was quieter. "My mother used to sit here," he said, before the glass cracked. "She said the rain made London honest. What happened to her? A stroke. Years ago." He hesitated. "She wanted me to build something clean. I told her the city doesn't reward clean hands. Or maybe it doesn't," I said. "But it remembers them." He looked at me as if weighing the truth of that, then turned away. "I'll go rest, Hanely. Tomorrow will be loud." It was. The next morning, the mansion awoke to the low rumble of engines. A convoy waited in the drive, 3 black SUVs and a grey saloon. Levi barked orders while men loaded crates into the back. Tiger stood near the steps, phone pressed to his ear, eyes unreadable. He spotted me by the doorway and ended the call. "You shouldn't be out here," he said. "You said I was safe behind your walls. These are still your walls." His mouth twitched. Technicality. "What's happening? A negotiation?" He adjusted his cufflinks with surgical precision. "Or Volkov wants a meeting. Is that wise? It's necessary. Then I'm coming." The laugh that escaped him was short and disbelieving. "No, you're not. You said they hurt me to reach you. Let them see I'm still standing." That gave him pause. For a moment I thought he'd refuse, but then he nodded once, curtly. "Levy will keep you 2 steps behind me at all times. If anything happens, you run." The meeting took place in an abandoned theatre near King's Cross, its gilt ceiling dulled by dust. The air smelled of rot and smoke. Volkov's people waited on one side of the stage, Tiger's on the other, and between them hung a silence sharp enough to cut. The man himself, Sergei Volkov, looked nothing like the monster in the stories. He was neat, polite, almost professorial in his glasses. Only his eyes betrayed him, pale, flat, reptilian. "Mr. Raith," he said with a nod, "London grows small for both of us." "It grows smaller for the careless," Tiger replied. "Careless." Volkov's gaze slid toward me. "The girl. You keep her close, sentimental of you." Levi shifted, but Tiger lifted a hand, calm, restrained. "You touched what's mine. That was your first mistake." Volkov's smile didn't reach his eyes. "And the second, a coming here unarmed, a subtle gesture." Tiger's men produced weapons with clockwork precision. Volkov's guards hesitated. realizing too late that security had been stripped from them at the entrance. The standoff lasted a heartbeat, no shots, just the cold understanding of power. Then Tiger spoke again, voice like steel wrapped in velvet. "This city is mine. You'll remember that." He turned, guiding me back toward the exit. Behind us, Volkov's voice followed. Low, venomous. "A careful, Raith. Kings fall fastest when they think they're gods." Outside, the air was cold enough to bite. Tiger didn't speak until we were back in the car. "You shouldn't have been there," he said finally. "Seeing men like him is poison. So is hiding," I said. He looked at me, the first flicker of something almost gentle in his eyes. "You really don't scare easily, do you?" "I'm already living inside the storm," I said. "And might as well learn the rhythm." He started the engine. "Then stay close. The rhythm's about to change." That night, back at the mansion, the tension between us was a living thing. Neither of us spoke of the theatre, of the look Volkov had given me, or of how Tiger's hand had brushed mine as he steered me out. But the air remembered. The mansion seemed to, too. Even its silence felt charged. When I finally lay down, I could still hear his voice echoing in the dark. "You're not a weakness. You're a reminder." I didn't know yet what that would cost either of us. Only that I was too far gone to turn back. For a week, the mansion held its breath. After the confrontation at the theatre, Volkov's men vanished from sight, but no one believed the silence. Tiger moved through the house like a general preparing for a siege, late-night meetings, encrypted calls, visitors who arrived with bodyguards and left pale. The rest of us kept to routine as if routine could disguise the sense that everything was about to crack. I spent the days helping Levi reorganize the records room, a maze of locked cabinets and file boxes. "It was meant to keep me safe," he said. But the work itself was revealing. Each file was a piece of the empire, shipping manifests, shell companies, invoices that pretended to be legitimate. Every page whispered a language of power. By Thursday, I knew one thing for certain. Tiger Wraith's world was built on precision. Which was why, when a single number failed to add up on a ledger, Levi swore under his breath. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Shipment from the South Docks. Should have cleared customs 2 days ago. Now the route's been changed, signed off under a code that doesn't exist. A mistake." Tiger's people don't make mistakes." He looked at me, expression unreadable. "This smells like rot." That evening I found Tiger in the library, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. The lamplight turned his eyes to liquid amber. "A levy thinks you have a leak," I said quietly. "I know." He didn't look surprised. "We caught a whisper on the security feed. Someone's been copying data from the internal servers. I'll find them." Ties a maneuver by fear long enough, greed starts to look like courage. I hesitated. "You think it's one of your own?" He gave a short nod. "And that's what makes it dangerous." 2 nights later, Danger walked through the door wearing a familiar face. It happened just after midnight. Escher and I were in the kitchen, baking to fill the silence. She believed sugar could drown worry. The rest of the staff had retired. Even Levi was patrolling outside. I was icing a tray of small cakes when the service door opened without warning. A man stepped in, Ruffy, one of Tiger's junior guards, the one who always joked with the drivers and slipped extra tips to the kitchen staff. His smile looked wrong. "Evening, ladies." Escher stiffened. "Ruffy, you scared us. He's sorry about that." He glanced around the room. "The boss around?" "Upstairs, I think." I wiped my hands. "Everything okay?" "Could be." He moved closer, lowering his voice. "He asked me to bring you Hanely. Quick chat in the garage." Something inside me twitched an instinct I didn't yet trust. He'd have called himself. Escher frowns. "No." "Or since when?" Ruffy's hand dropped casually to the pocket of his jacket. That was when I saw the outline of a gun. Not regulation issue, smaller, concealed. "Stay here," I told Escher softly. I locked the door behind me. "Hanely, do it." I stepped out first, heart hammering. The corridor beyond was empty, the air thick with the metallic smell of rain drifting in through the vents. Rafi walked behind me, too close. At the first corner, I stopped and turned. "Tell me again where we're going." His smile faltered. "A garage, like I said." "Then why are we heading away from it?" The mask dropped from his face. "You're smarter than you look." I spun toward the alarm panel on the wall, but he caught my wrist. Pain flared. "Don't," he hissed. "You'll only make it worse." A voice cut through the corridor like a blade. Let her go. Tiger, Tiger. He stood at the far end, flanked by Levi and two others, gun levelled. His expression was pure ice. Raffi's grip tightened. Boss, this isn't. Put it down, Tiger said. Raffi hesitated. In that pause, the whole world balanced on a trigger. Then Levi moved, a blur of motion, and the gun skidded across the floor. Hands pinned Raffi before he could breathe. Who's paying you? Tiger asked quietly. Raffi's eyes flicked between us. You wouldn't understand. Try me. Volkov promised a way out. Said once you're gone, the city's open again. Tiger studied him for a long moment, then spoke without raising his voice. Take him to the cellar. I'll deal with him later. Levi nodded. They dragged Raffi away, his protests fading into the wall. When they were gone, Tiger turned to me. Are you hurt? No. My voice came out thinner than I meant. He stepped closer, fingertips grazing my wrist where Raffi had grabbed me. He touched you. He didn't. Tiger stop, but his jaw was set. For a second I thought he might go after Raffi himself. Instead he took a breath, forced the anger down. He was in my house, he said. He knew better. I swallowed. You would have killed him. If I'd been 5 seconds later, yes. And you think that makes you different from him? It makes me alive, he said simply. Later, when the noise subsided, I found Tiger alone in the courtyard, standing under the rain without a coat. The house lights painted him in pale gold, water streaming down his face like sweat. You should be inside, I said. So should you. I couldn't sleep, and neither can I. For a while, we just listened to the rain. Then he said, Raffi was with me 5 years, saved my life once in Marseille. I never thought. He stopped, shaking his head. And maybe Volkov's right. Maybe fear isn't enough to buy loyalty anymore. I then buy it with something else, I said softly. Trust, maybe. He looked at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. You think that works in my world. It works in every world. He studied me for a long moment. You make it sound easy. It's not, but it's real. Rain gathered on the edges of his lashes. You keep talking like that, he murmured, and I might start believing you. I stepped closer, so close that the warmth of him cut through the chill. You then believe me? His hand rose halfway, as if to touch my face, but stopped an inch away. If I do, he said, I'll never be able to let you go. For once, I didn't look away. Then don't. The moment held nothing spoken, everything understood. Behind us, the city hummed, alive and indifferent. The rain kept falling, washing the blood and lies from the stones for one brief, fragile hour. By dawn, the house had been stripped to its bones. Every door stood open. Every room smelled of cold steel and disinfectant. Tiger's people searched in silence. Even their boots tried not to echo. Raffi's betrayal had peeled away the illusion that the mansion's walls meant safety. I found Tiger in the study, bent over a table strewn with folders. The lamp threw a pale ring of light around him, leaving the rest of the room in shadow. He talked, he said without looking up. Not much, but enough. I waited. Volkov didn't bribe him with money. He promised to take his sister out of debt. Same hospital that treated your mother. He straightened slowly. Volkov's been digging through my staff for anyone who owes the world too much. The words landed heavy. Like me, I thought, but didn't say it. Tiger rubbed his temples. I used to believe loyalty was a contract you could sign in blood. Turns out it's written in fear, and fear fades. What will you do with him? Levy already handled it. His tone left no room for curiosity. He looked exhausted, and for the first time since I'd met him, uncertain. For the rest of the files, every shipment, every account could be compromised. Until I know which ones no one stays put. You mean, if we leave London? The decision was that simple, that fast. Orders went out like gunfire. Within an hour, the mansion became a machine in motion. Crates sealed, vehicles loaded, communications rerouted through burners. Levi oversaw the operation with grim efficiency. Escher hovered near the stairs, suitcase in hand, eyes huge. Where are we going? She whispered. Out of the city, I said. Somewhere they can't find us. She stared at me. You trust him that much? I didn't answer because I already knew I did. We drove west through grey light, a 3-car convoy cutting across the sleeping city. Tiger sat beside me, silent except for the occasional check-in with Levi over a secure line. By the time the skyline shrank behind us, the tension in his shoulders had started to ease, replaced by something quieter. You could have stayed behind, he said at last. Levi would have kept you safe. They don't want to be kept, I replied, and we both know safety's relative. A faint smile ghosted across his mouth. You keep saying things I'm not ready to hear. You then start listening sooner. For a moment his hand brushed mine on the seat between us, an accidental touch that lingered too long to be won. He didn't pull away. The hideout turned out to be an old estate house near Oxford. Stone walls, ivy, the smell of damp earth. Levy's men swept through it, declared it clear. By dusk, the others had gone, leaving only Tiger, Levi, Escher, and me. Escher disappeared into the guest wing almost immediately, muttering about sleep. Levi took the outer patrol. That left Tiger and me alone with the hush of the countryside pressing against the windows. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed me one. To temporary peace, he said. Is there any other kind? He studied me over the rim of his glass. You're adapting to this too easily. I stopped pretending the world was fair a long time ago. The fire crackled in the hearth, throwing gold across his face. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then quietly, why did you stay, Hanely? Because running never fixed anything. He looked at me as if memorizing that answer. When this ends, and it will, you should walk away from me. I probably won't, I said. He gave a low laugh, tired and real. Then I'll have to make sure you survive long enough to regret it. Later, when the house had settled into silence, I stood at the window watching the moon pull silver across the field. Somewhere below, I could hear Tiger speaking on the phone, voice rough, urgent, planning, threatening, protecting. The sound should have frightened me. Instead, it steadied me. It was proof he was still fighting, and that somehow I'd become part of the reason. For the first time in weeks, I slept without dreaming of rain. The quiet didn't last. For 2 days, the Oxford estate sat like a held breath. The air smelled of wet leaves and wood smoke. Mornings came soft and pale, evenings heavy with fog. Tiger worked in the study, maps, ledgers, coded calls. Levy's men patrolled the perimeter. Escher cooked, though she barely spoke. I told myself the silence meant safety. It didn't. It was Wednesday night when the storm broke. I was in the library, its shelves smaller than the Mayfair one, but still crowded with old books that smelled of dust and secrets. A fire snapped in the grate, the only sound in the house. I'd been reading the same page for an hour when the power died. Darkness folded over the room. Tiger? I called softly. No answer. Somewhere beyond the corridor, a door slammed. Then another, too deliberate to be wind. I set the book down and moved toward the window. Headlights flashed once across the drive, cutting through fog. A second later came the crunch of tires on gravel, several vehicles, not one. My pulse quickened. They found us. I turned toward the door just as Levi burst in, pistol drawn. Stay here, he ordered. Do not move. A levy, but he was already gone. A single gunshot cracked outside, distant but unmistakable. Then 2 more, closer. The echo bounced through the house like thunder. The fire in the grate guttered low, painting the room blood red. Footsteps pounded on the stairs. I backed away from the door, heart hammering. When it opened, I nearly screamed, but it was Tiger. His shirt was half-buttoned, a cut across his cheek. He grabbed my arm. We're leaving, he said. Escher, a levy's getting her out. Come on. He pulled me into the corridor. Smoke crawled along the ceiling. Somewhere downstairs, something was burning. The smell was wrong, chemical, deliberate. What did they do? I gasped. The brutal bombs, they want us out before they come in. We ran past portraits that warped in the flickering light. At the landing, a figure stepped out of the shadows. One of Volkov's men, face masked. He raised a gun. Tiger moved faster. 1 shot precise, and the man crumpled. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Keep your eyes on me, Tiger said sharply. And not on them. I obeyed. Adrenaline burned through the pain in my ribs. We reached the ground floor just as the first tongues of flame licked the walls. Books crackled. The old wood caught like dry tinder. Through the chaos, I saw Levi pushing Escher toward the side door, blood on his sleeve. He shouted something, could have been a go, before smoke swallowed him. Tiger dragged me toward the rear exit. He'd seared the back of my neck. A beam cracked and fell where we'd been seconds before. Outside, the night was wild with noise, sirens far off, engines nearer. A dark van skidded across the yard, blocking the drive. Volkov's men spilled out against firelight. Tiger shoved me behind a stone pillar. Stay down. He fired twice. 1 man dropped, another staggered. Return fire shattered the windows above us. Glass rained like ice. A tiger. Escher's voice somewhere to the left. I started toward it, but he caught my wrist. Not yet. She's out there. I said not yet. The command cracked like a whip. Then softer, I'll get her. You run for the tree line. Oh no. Hanely. If you go out there alone, you'll die. And then so will we. For a heartbeat, something like pride flickered in his eyes. Then he nodded once. Together then, we moved as one, slipping from shadow to shadow. The van's engine still idled. The driver hadn't seen her. Smoke poured from the library windows behind. Fire in the library, I thought distantly, the phrase taking shape like prophecy. Tiger reached the driver first. One sharp blow with the butt of his gun, and the man folded. He pulled open the door, in. Escher's scream cut through the noise from the far side of the yard. Two figures dragged her toward another car. I moved before thought caught up, out of cover, across gravel that bit into my bare feet. Escher! The men turned. One aimed. I ducked. One aimed. A shot split the air, then another from behind me. Both attackers went down. Tiger's shadow loomed through smoke, gun still raised. He grabbed Escher's arm, yanked us both toward the van. Hey, go! We dove inside, doors slamming as bullets ricocheted off the frame. Tiger twisted the key still in the ignition and floored it. The van lurched forward, tires spitting gravel. Behind us, the estate burned, a column of orange against the black sky. 10 miles later, the road narrowed to hedgerows and darkness. Only then did he ease off the accelerator. Escher was shaking but alive, eyes wide with shock. I reached for her hand. She clutched mine like a lifeline. Tiger's knuckles were white on the wheel. His voice, when it came, was steady but raw. "Levy." "I don't know," I whispered. He didn't answer. The silence between us was heavier than gunfire. Finally, he pulled the van into a lay-by, killed the engine, and turned toward me. The glow from the dashboard lit the cut on his cheek, the soot streaking his neck. "I told you the rhythm would change," he said quietly. "And now it's a war." "And we're in it," I said. "You don't have to be." "Yes, I do." Something in my voice must have reached him, because the fight drained out of his shoulders. For a long moment we just breathed in the dark, the sound of rain returning as if nothing had happened. Then he whispered, "They'll come again, and next time they won't miss." Then we don't give them another chance. He looked at me, a flicker of that dangerous admiration back in his eyes. "You're starting to sound like me. And maybe you're starting to sound like someone who cares." He almost smiled. And maybe. The faintest dawn began to edge the horizon. Behind us, somewhere in the distance, the fire would be burning itself out. Ahead lay only the road, the city, and whatever waited next. London swallowed us whole. By the time Tiger steered the battered van through the outer boroughs, dawn had turned the sky the colour of old ash. We ditched the vehicle behind a shuttered warehouse near Paddington, covered it with a tarpaulin, and disappeared into the city like smoke. Escher was silent, wrapped in one of Tiger's coats. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. When the underground gates opened for the first morning trains, we slipped among commuters, faces down, eyes dull with routine. To everyone else, we were just 3 tired travellers chasing warmth. Tiger guided us into a service tunnel that branched from the station's maintenance corridor. The air smelled of rust and oil. A metal door waited at the end, coded keypad faintly glowing. He punched in a sequence. The lock clicked. Inside was another world. A narrow room, bare concrete, a few cots, a desk stacked with files. The lights buzzed awake. "Safe house," he said. "Old network line. No one knows it exists except Levy and me." The mention of Levi made the air hitch for a second. No word yet. None expected. Escher collapsed onto one of the cots. "What now?" "And now we wait," Tiger said. He looked at me, and we think. The waiting turned into hours. Tiger spent most of them on the phone, voice low, issuing instructions in fragments that made no sense to me. Outside, the city's rhythm beat overhead. Trains rumbling, footsteps echoing, London pretending to be normal while our world smouldered a few miles away. At last he snapped the phone shut and rubbed a hand over his face. Volkov's people are claiming the explosion was gas. Police bought it. For now, I asked. He'll push the story until he needs chaos again. I sat beside him on the edge of the desk. "You said you built everything on precision. What happens when precision burns?" He looked at me, eyes ringed with fatigue. "Then you rebuild out of loyalty, if any still exists. A start with mine," I said quietly. Something changed in his expression, not surprise, but the ache of someone who hadn't expected to hear that word again. By evening, the safe house felt smaller. The single lamp cast long shadows over the walls. Escher finally slept, exhaustion winning. Tiger and I sat opposite each other at the desk, a map spread between us, lines of territory, routes marked in red ink. He traced one finger along the Thames. Volkov's moving south. He thinks I'm finished. Are you? His mouth curved. Not I can still fight. The light flickered. For a heartbeat, his reflection in the map glass looked like two men. The one who ruled a city and the one who had carried me through fire. I wasn't sure which one frightened me more. You shouldn't be here, he said suddenly. I chose to be. I'm poison, Hanely. Everything I touch burns. It may be, I said, but you're also the reason I'm still breathing. He exhaled slowly. You make it hard to keep the lines clear. Maybe the lines were never real. For a moment, the sound of trains drowned everything else. When it faded, he reached across the desk and took my hand. His skin was rough, cold from the concrete air, yet the touch felt steady. No promises, no lies, just the quiet admission that we were past pretend. Near midnight, a knock rattled the outer door. Two quick, one slow. Tiger was on his feet instantly, gun drawn. Stay back. The door opened to reveal a familiar silhouette. Levi, smoke-stained, limping but alive. Relief hit me so hard my knees gave. Tiger crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed his friend's shoulder. I thought you were gone. Almost, Levi rasped. Volkov's still moving. He's setting up in Docklands. Big meet tomorrow night. If you want him, do. Levy's gaze flicked to me, then to Escher sleeping in the corner. Then you'll need to finish this fast. He's using civilians now, reporters, coppers. Everyone's for sale. Tiger nodded once. Then we take it out of the city. He turned to me. Tomorrow night this ends. Ends how? One way or another. Later, after Levy had collapsed onto a cot, Tiger came to where I stood at the tunnel mouth, watching the drip of water down the wall. You should stay here with Escher, he said. If something goes wrong, I'm done hiding, I told him. He looked at me for a long time. Then, with a small, tired smile, you realize you keep volunteering for nightmares. Someone has to wake you up from them. That earned a soft laugh. You always know what to say. No, I said, but I know when not to run. He stepped closer until the space between us vanished into the sound of the underground wind. No words then, only the steady pulse of the city above, and the knowledge that tomorrow one of us might not see daylight. The city never truly sleeps, it only changes colour. By the time we returned to London, it was night again, the streets painted with the sodium glow of lamps and sirens. Tiger drove the smaller of his cars, a dark saloon stripped of plates, Levi'd on a motorbike. Escher stayed behind at the safe house, swearing she wouldn't move until she heard from us. We crossed the river at Vauxhall. The air smelled of damp brick and diesel. Volkov's people were waiting in Docklands, in one of the empty warehouses that once held imported goods and now held only ghosts. A last chance to walk away, Tiger said. I walked away once already, I answered. It didn't save anyone. He didn't argue. The gun on the seat between us gleamed like a promise. The warehouse loomed ahead, corrugated metal, broken windows, a single light burning inside. Levi signalled from the shadows and slipped through a side door first. A minute later, the earpiece in Tiger's collar crackled once. Clear. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the smell of oil. Wooden pallets formed crude barricades. Volkov stood at the far end, hands clasped behind his back, flanked by men with rifles. He looked calm, almost bored. So the king crawls back, he said, and he brings his servant. Tiger's voice was ice. You burned my house. You took my people. Volkov smiled, a collateral. You built an empire out of fear. Fear burns quickly. You mistook fear for loyalty, Tiger said. Mean was built on debt. Debts get paid. The words hung between them. Then everything happened at once. Levy's shout. Down neath the crack of gunfire, the sudden roar of engines outside. Bullets tore through the air, shattering glass. I dropped behind a crate. Tiger moved forward, methodical, returning fire. Every motion was calculated, precise, the predator he'd always been. Levi near the doorway, blood spreading dark beneath him. I crawled toward him, pressed my hand to the wound, useless gesture. He grabbed my wrist. Don't. Let him. His breath hitched. Don't let him go alone. Then his hand slipped. The noise around us blurred. I looked up to see Volkov retreating toward the stairs that led to the upper catwalks. Tiger followed, firing once, twice, forcing him higher. I ran after them. The catwalk trembled underfoot. Below, the warehouse burned where stray bullets had found the fuel drums. Flames licked the walls. Smoke coiled upward like something alive. Volkov reached the far platform and turned, gun raised. You think you can still win, Raith? You've already lost your kingdom. Tiger fired first. The shot struck Volkov's shoulder, spinning him against the railing. His gun fell, clattering into the dark below. For a heartbeat, silence. Then Volkov laughed, wet, bitter. And what will you be without it? A man who cleans his own blood from the floor? Tiger stepped closer, weapon steady. Maybe that's all I ever was. Volkov lunged. They hit the railing together. Metal screamed. I shouted his name, Tiger, but the noise swallowed it. A flash, a sound like the world exhaling, and both men vanished into the smoke below. I reached the lower level through fire and falling debris. Heat scorched my skin. The air tasted of iron. Volkov lay motionless amid the wreckage. Tiger was half buried under a collapsed beam, blood streaking his temple. I dragged at the debris until it shifted enough for him to breathe. Hanely, he whispered. His eyes were unfocused, but still the same impossible gold. It's done. Not yet. We're getting out. He caught my wrist. Listen to me. There's a car outside. Take Escher and go north. There's a bank account in your name. Levi set it up. Keys in my jacket. I'm not leaving you. You will, please. The ceiling groaned. Fire chased along the beams. I could smell the end coming. You saved me once, I said, tears burning through the smoke. Now it's my turn. His hand tightened briefly, then loosened. You were the only part that felt real. The beam above us cracked. The sound was like thunder. I reached for him, but the heat drove me back. The last thing I saw was his face in the firelight. Calm, resolute, a man finally unafraid. I ran. Outside, the night tasted of metal and rain. I stumbled from the warehouse as the roof caved in behind me, light blooming orange against the river. The blast threw heat down the alley, whipped my hair across my face, filled my mouth with ash. Sirens wailed somewhere across the docks. Too far, too late. I kept running until the world narrowed to breath and heartbeat. When I reached the car, an old black Jaguar half hidden beneath a tarp, the keys were exactly where Tiger said they'd be. I slid into the seat, trembling so hard I could barely turn the ignition. The engine caught. Smoke curled across the windscreen, a ghost refusing to fade. I drove until the Thames bent away behind me, until the air smelled of rain instead of fire. By dawn I was on the northern motorway, a single figure in a city of headlights. At a service station outside Milton Keynes, I stopped long enough to wash soot from my face and wrap my burned hands in a stolen towel. In the mirror, the bruises looked older, as though the night had taken years instead of hours. The news screens above the counter flashed images of Docklands in flames. Warehouse blaze under investigation. No names. No bodies recovered. I turned the sound down before anyone could ask questions. 2 days later, I found Esh. She was waiting in the safe house, the air thick with worry and the smell of cheap tea. When she saw me, she didn't speak. She just pulled me into her arms and held on until the shaking stopped. What happened? She whispered. It's over, I said, though the words felt hollow. A tiger. I couldn't answer. The silence was enough. She nodded slowly. Then you need to disappear. I know. We left London that night. No destination, just the road. The further we drove, the lighter the air became, as if the city's weight had finally lifted. Yet part of me stayed behind in the smoke and the fire, with the man who had taught me how to stop being afraid. Weeks later, in a small town near the northern coast, I rented a room above a bakery. The sea was grey, restless, gulls screamed at dawn. I found work cleaning holiday cottages, irony not lost on me. At night, when the wind rattled the windows, I'd sit by the lamp and write letters I never meant to send. Sometimes I imagined Tiger walking out of that fire, scarred but alive, watching from the edge of the crowd. I told myself I'd feel it if he did. I never did. But every morning when the sun caught the horizon, I remembered the last thing he'd said. You were the only part that felt real. So I lived as if that were enough. A year passed before London called again. The newspaper headline was small, buried beneath politics. Docklands redevelopment announced by Raith Holdings Limited. No photograph, just a statement of intent, signed by a new director. Initials only. I read it twice, heart-hammering. It could have been a coincidence, or it could have been him, rebuilding from the ashes, watching without being seen. Either way, I folded the paper, walked down to the water, and let the tide take it. The wind off the sea tasted of rain and smoke. I breathed it in, closed my eyes, and whispered his name. Not a prayer, not a plea, just a truth carried on the air. Then I turned back toward the lighted windows of the town, toward whatever came next. Because survival, I'd learned, was its own kind of love. Spring came late to the coast that year. The storms dragged on into April, waves breaking against the seawall hard enough to shake the glass. The tourists hadn't arrived yet, and the narrow streets smelled of salt and fresh paint. Hanely walked to work every morning through the mist, hair tied back, coat too thin for the wind. She liked the emptiness. No shouting, no traffic, only the gulls and the steady roll of the tide. The woman at the bakery saved her the same bun each day, always saying, "You look better this week." Maybe she did. She'd stopped checking the news months ago. London might as well have been another planet. Still, sometimes she caught a whisper, a business merger, a charitable trust set up in someone else's name. Rumours that the Mayfair underworld had gone silent. She never asked questions. She'd learned that peace depended on not needing answers. In the evenings, she wrote in a small notebook, half diary, half map of memories. The first page carried a single line written in her careful hand. He taught me that courage isn't loud. It's breathing when you'd rather burn. One night, after closing the cottages, she walked the beach until the stars came out. The tide was low, the sand cold under her shoes. At the far end of the bay, a man stood by the water, coat collar turned up against the wind. Too far to see his face, but something in the way he stood, shoulders squared still, made her heart skip once. She watched until he turned and disappeared up the path toward the road. Maybe just a traveller. Maybe not. Either way, she didn't follow. She smiled, whispered goodbye, and kept walking. Behind her, the sea erased every footprint.